Justin Scott, that's a name that's become pretty popular amongst Fighting Irish football fans, and sounds like he was coming to town, and now it's going to be a little delayed. But he's worth the wait, Mike. This is a guy that seems like one of those elite defensive linemen that a lot of really good programs want to get their hands on.
Oh man, 6'5", 310 pounds, and he's got great athleticism as a basketball player. Yeah, this is a complete package kind of defensive lineman, Darren. He is a special player. You want him on the interior. He's a run stuffer. He'll get after the quarterback. He is what longtime Notre Dame fans have just been, dying for, on the interior of your defensive line. And I think Harry Heastand might even have an argument for, hey, I want him on the offensive line because and you'll see him on his some on his early junior season tape of him mauling people. So, nose tackle, 3 technique, you play him at guard or tackle. Like, the guy is just a superb athlete of a big man and someone that Notre Dame has coveted for the past year. So they really want him in their class.
For those listening on the radio, on the YouTube video, Mike is showing highlights of Justin Scott. And you heard him say he's 6'5", 310. I mean, Mike, he moves like he's 6'5",
I know.
245.
Darren, if Notre Dame's able to get this young man, I mean, he's someone you build your defensive line around. I mean, this would be just such a big recruiting win for and several coaches. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. I mean, we'll dive into the recruitment here in just a moment, Darren. But between Marcus Freeman, Al Washington, Chad Bowden, the director of recruiting at Notre Dame, Al Golden, and even Tommy Reese with his Chicago background, he's been important in this recruitment. So whole staff effort. And this, again, would be, you can't emphasize enough how big this would be for the Irish if they get it done.
I know storylines don't matter when it comes to winning football games, but from my standpoint, Mike, this would be a great way to kind of restart a new generation of Notre Dame defensive line play. We've talked about the great run Mike Elston had recruiting and developing the defensive line for so many years, and now Coach Washington is in charge of the defensive line. This almost feels like a reshuffle, a restart. This would be a great way to kind of rebuild that Irish defensive line.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you got to continue it. I mean, they're not saying, all right, we know what we are with defensive linemen at Notre Dame. We're just going to settle with your 3-star type talents. Like, they're shooting for the stars, not only at defensive line but all these positions. Like, they are going for the best talent across the country. Like, that's not just lip service. So when you look at who they're trending for in this defensive line class, Justin Scott. They have Owen Wayful committed, who's just this bowling ball from New Jersey. How about Bryce Young? And yes, that last name, he's Bryant Young's kid. He's on the lighter side at about 6'4", 220 right now, but he's someone who projects to put on weight and be a strong side defensive end who could get after the passer. I like Notre Dame for the twins out of New Jersey, Jared and Jacob Smith. Notre Dame's had a really good success over the years with brothers, and even more specifically twin brothers. So it's shaping up to be a really good defensive line class. And Notre Dame has cast a pretty wide net. They have a lot of offers out, whether it's on the interior or the outside of the defensive line. So I think they're going to end up signing a pretty darn good class. They just got to close on these guys.
So I'm assuming, understanding what you're talking about here and doing a little reading, that Notre Dame, at the very least, they have put themselves in great position with Justin Scott. They're just waiting to hear from Justin to come to campus and then say yes to Notre Dame. That's kind of where we are.
It's been interesting, Darren. So I put in a prediction last summer after he visited for this little cookout style recruiting thing they had at the end of July. I put in a prediction. I was loving Notre Dame. Irish sources were really optimistic that they were going to be able to get that done. And then he didn't visit throughout the fall. And you're thinking, all right, yeah, I know he's got some games on Saturdays, but like not all of them. Like there were some visits he could have taken, but just wasn't able to get over. I mean, we're talking about Chicago. So he just wasn't able to get over, to make the short trip to South Bend. So, but he did go to USC and Michigan and Ohio State, and I believe Miami. So you're like, man, that's follow the visits is my big mantra, right? That's not looking good for Notre Dame, but it's not a perfect mantra, right? Because even though he was looking at a spring-summer decision, he just tweeted out kind of randomly a couple weeks back, hey, I'm deciding on my birthday, January 31st, and you start digging, and it looks good for Notre Dame, despite he hasn't been to campus since in July. Now, granted, He was supposed to be on campus this past Sunday. That visit fell through due to weather, but he's rescheduling it for this Sunday, 2 days before his commitment date, Darren. So you're thinking, okay, that sounds really good, but weather is supposed to be even worse this weekend in Chicago. So we'll see. I still, and this is more Mike Singer talking at this point. Well, does he delay it? Does he push things back? Hey, I want to get back to Notre Dame. Like, I want to make this thing really sure. So let me wait until March, because February is a dead period, the entire month. No face-to-face contact. The coaches can't go out on the road like they're doing right now. Recruits can't come to campus like they're able to do in January, or the latter half of January, I should say. So that's still something I'm keeping an eye on. There has been a little talk in his camp about potentially delaying it after the Georgia offer. He picked up offer from the Bulldogs. But as things stand, he's plugging along with that decision date of 6 days from now, Darren. And again, if that happens for the Irish, that'll be absolutely huge.
We go through recruiting. We hear some last names. It's kind of like, okay, like Smith, Jones, maybe Singer. There's not a lot of oomph with that. Now, at Notre Dame, if you hear Pritchett, then all of a sudden, like, wow, Wes Pritchett, that's pretty cool. But then we get to this name. Notre Dame has offered a 2024 safety by the name of Kennedy Urlacher. I can't imagine there's too many Urlacher different branches of family heritage. So I got to ask, is it that Brian Urlacher is the dad of Kennedy Urlacher? What's the story?
That is true. His father is Brian Urlacher, and this is a kind of a crazy one for me. I mean, kind of like a wow moment. Like you're getting up there a little bit in age, saying you're still in your.
Oh,
I'm 29. I'm still very young, but I mean, Brian Urlacher. That was, I mean, watching the Bears. I mean, him and Zach Thomas. And I would say even Ray Lewis to extent, like I fell in love with football, those three players. Like I loved linebacker play, in the early 2000s. I mean, that, and now I'm covering his son. I'm going to get on the phone with his son this week, probably. Like that's a crazy one for me. But yeah, I thought it was good to mention on here, 6'1", 180-pound safety, Chandler, Arizona high school. Yeah, Irish extended an offer. Marcus Freeman was at his school on Monday, and Mike Mickens was at his school last week. So yeah, the Irish are definitely looking to make a push here. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Here's an interesting little tidbit. I don't know exactly how close Marcus Freeman and Brian Urlacher were, but Freeman was on like the Bears practice squad. Like he was with the Bears at the same time, and I want to say it's 2009 as Brian Urlacher. So they at least played the same position. So there's somewhat of a relationship there. I don't know if they've been going to the pub together over the years, but they at least did play not only play on the same roster but the same position. So I thought that was interesting, and a lot of Notre Dame fans are also Chicago Bear fans, so I thought that might be interesting to mention.